special episode of Lazio Lounge, Lazio World, how you want to call it. We are live after Verona-Lazio. I could see this coming, honestly, but I didn't expect it to see it so bad. I could see, Steve, thanks for joining me, Lazio losing against Verona like it happened against Bologna, but I was expecting definitely something more. 4-1 defeat. I couldn't see this coming, honestly.
I had predicted a draw. I know that we had a good record and a good history coming into this match against Verona. And the thing is, this season, the stats have been on our side against all these matches. Against Bologna, the stats and history were all for us in every different manner, whether it be Saudi's record against the manager, the team, or Lazio's record against the team. So coming into this one, I said, okay, that's been kind of a recurring theme, but we keep breaking those trends. So I kind of suspected maybe, okay, we'll come in with a draw, especially being without both Acerbi and Luis Felipe.
Yeah.
I thought it would be very difficult. But considering Patrick played well against Inter, and that was the game that I thought we were going to lose 3-1, and we won 3-1, I said, okay, I'll maybe give him the benefit of the doubt. But we clearly saw why today lacking depth at center back is definitely going to hurt us throughout the season.
Yeah, one thing, we are live. The match finished, what was it? 30 minutes ago at least. And still Sarri is inside. He didn't come out. He didn't speak with the media. He's still in the locker room talking with the players. I don't think he's very happy. And I think it makes totally sense.
No.
So we're going to see what happens, how the situation will evolve. But this tells you, Steve, that definitely he's not happy. He didn't see it coming. Especially the thing that annoys me more is it's not a surprise because it's happened the same thing, the same exact thing against Bologna, right? Lazio won the derby, played really well, and then away against Bologna, totally collapsed. Lazio dominated the Inter, win against Inter at home, and then away against Verona, totally collapsed. I don't understand. It looks like the players don't improve, don't learn from their mistakes, right?
No, absolutely. And I think it's a mentality factor too. I think we saw it a little bit last season when they were in the Champions League and they played excellent in the Champions League, but then when it would come to league play, they'd struggle. And it seems like this year is kind of a similar trend where we play well against the top teams. I know Milan was a little bit of a slip up, but that was early in the season. But then apart from that, it's been very like a struggle behavior, and we're not really performing the way we should be against these lower tier sides. Like we look against Cagliari when we drew, Torino against when we drew. I know these situations have kind of been different. Like we start the season off against Empoli, who's been recently promoted. We start against then Spezia, who obviously, Thiago Motta was their new-sided team. They played well underneath Italiano. We're going to see how well they're going to play this year. Then we go to Milan, difficult against Pioli, who is obviously going to be a title contender this year. Every single game, there's been some sort of factor that can kind of go against us. But despite that, we have the better quality, so we should be coming out on top, and especially against these lower-tier sides. Like Simeone, my Nono has been praising Lazio to sign this guy because obviously he likes Simeone when he played for Lazio back in the day. He saw Simeone. He puts 4 past us today, which is good for him. But he totally took advantage of our back line today in our organization. So definitely have to sort that out.
Steve, were you surprised to see Akpa Pro starting? Because we know that Sarri wasn't sure to put Milinkovic-Savic and Luis Alberto together. But I thought maybe Basic would have started there instead of Akpa Pro. Instead, I was surprised.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think another person that I think I've seen you mention as well is Andre Anderson, because he played well in preseason. And obviously, we know his talent with Salernitana, what he was able to do last year. So I thought maybe, switch it up. Maybe he'd be integrated into the squad. But Saudi seems to like Akpa Akro. And same thing with Inzaghi, whether it be his work rate and his drive. Like we saw last season, every time he came on the pitch, if you were a bettor, you're putting a bet on him to get a yellow card because he'd come into the game so quick, he'd make a challenge, pick up a yellow card. So I don't know if it's maybe the intensity, because obviously Luis Alberto, he said it himself, and I think Saudi is right to some extent, whereby Luis Alberto kind of thrives in a slower tempo build-ups, strives on the counter-attack. And in Saudi's kind of quick passes, you got to be very quick, look up, make a pass, not hold on to the ball too long. Maybe that's why, but Akpa Akro isn't at the same level as most of the players on this team. His drive and work rate, sure, we can give him that, and his aggression, but I was definitely expecting someone else to start. If not Luis Alberto, Toma Basic, and maybe even throw Andre Anderson in. But Akpa Akro was kind of a one out of the blue. I don't think anyone had predicted that coming into this game.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know what happened with Andre Anderson because he came in against Empoli, and I thought he played quite well against Empoli. And then he disappeared. He hasn't been called in any single match after that. He's not on the bench. He hasn't been called at all. I don't know what's going on. What happened? Has he been removed from the team? I don't know. But yes, talking about Akpa Pro, he made so many mistakes, so many bad passes that, yeah, I can understand that maybe he provide more protection than Luis Alberto, but we lose so much quality in that midfield with him there. I don't know. It's not acceptable, especially against Verona. Probably with better quality there, you could make a difference, right?
No, absolutely. I think you kind of hit spot on right there. Like obviously, like I said, his aggression, his drive is there, and that's why Saudi likes him. He likes his pressing and stuff like that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if we're not able to string a few passes together, like I think our 79% was our pass success rate today, which is severely low. I think we've only ever suffered under Saudi so far one performance that was worse than that. I think it was against Torino, if I'm not mistaken, if my history corrects me. But obviously, we should be a lot better than that. And having Luis Alberto or and Tomo Basic would obviously be better in that position to kind of create chances too, because we saw how much we struggled. It was all Verona in the first half. I don't think we really did too much, and that's partially the reason for it, right? Like I don't think Milinkovic was a standout player today at all. He's kind of absent from what I saw, at least for the most part. So obviously, needing a creator in the midfield is very important. That's why we have Luis Alberto. So sitting him on the bench in place of a player who obviously, he's got some strengths, but not of the same quality as some of our other players, it kind of takes a toll on the team's performance.
Yeah, you mentioned Milinkovic Savic. I don't know who can be saved today because, yes, Ciro Immobile scored, but I mean, the performance of all players was simply embarrassing today. Uh, it's hard. It's hard to find someone to save from Reina
No.
to Felipe Anderson. I thought Felipe Anderson didn't get nothing right today, and it reminded me of the bad Felipe Anderson we saw at times at Lazio.
Absolutely. And whether it be because we're playing, and this is going to be the issue though, because obviously we know Saudi doesn't like to change too much. That's what been
Yeah.
something similar that we've had a problem with Inzaghi in the past. But obviously we've seen him make a few switches and a few changes, but they've not always kind of panned out. And today, for example, we obviously played, I think it was Thursday, so 3 days ago, and we play in 3 days from now again, and that's how our schedule kind of is for the next little bit. We have to make some changes, or the players are going to get fatigued, and these are going to be the type of performances that we see. I thought Reina made some good saves today, but obviously he was nowhere to be seen on most of the goals, and obviously sitting in net, it's always going to be an issue, especially when we look at our clean sheet issue as well. I think I just tweeted out we're one of 4 teams. There's only 3 other teams, and those teams sit in 17th, 18th, and 19th that don't have a clean sheet. And we're the only other team that's up there, right? And we've conceded 17 goals, I think, this season. I think that's the 5th most in the league. That's definitely a problem. So we knew this was going to be the case, though. We didn't reinforce the defense properly. We didn't sign another goalkeeper if we weren't going to pursue Strakosha in the future. It's obviously going to come back to haunt us. So that's the current dilemma that we're facing.
How do you rate the performance of Stefan Radu? Because finally he was starting, and well, it wasn't the perfect day, right?
No. Obviously, it started with that slip. I think on the first goal,
Yeah.
which if he was there, he would have blocked that pass. And I think it just went downhill from there. And obviously, everyone's going to say, you know what? Now we know why Radu isn't playing, whatever the case may be. But we need to take under consideration this guy was someone who's supposed to leave the club, decided to stay for his love for Lazio, and then has just been pushed to the bench. And obviously, like he played well last season. I think he was able to stay fit for majority of the season. He was a reliable defender. Whether it be playing him at left back or center back, I think he should have been able to play at least a minute up to this point. There's no reason why he shouldn't have been able to play. We played Hisai constantly. We've seen him get a little bit of a rest and put Matosic on the left. But we have 2 good right back options in Matosic and Lazzari, and we only have Hisai on the left. So why not try to place Radu in there? I know that he was supposed to be a backup for Acerbi, and in a last-ditch kind of event like today where both of our center backs were injured, he's been put in there. But it's been one of those things where who knows if he didn't get enough time or if this is something completely new for him. Because obviously, he hasn't really played there in a while. It kind of just went downhill after that first goal. So he was there, he was present, but both him and Patrick did not look good today. The duo, whether or not be their communication issues, I found that they were getting beaten far too easily, especially on some plays when Simeone was pressing. Radu had the ball, and he was like trying to kind of go back to Arena, but Simeone got the ball back around him, and especially on chances where the balls were being whipped into the box, we did not feel safe at all. I was like, any of these chances could go in, and it could have been a lot worse than 4-1 today. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, rewatching the goals we allowed, you can see that the closer defender to Simeone is like 2 meters far from him, and so
Yeah.
this tell. And the second goal was outside the box, but all the others were inside, and it's not acceptable that in Serie A you are marking 2-3 meters away from the attacker. So this made it easier for Simeone, who, funny enough, I thought had a hat trick. The only hat trick he had in Serie A was against Maurizio Sarri team. So he looks comfortable against the Maurizio Sarri, which, yeah,
And against
eh,
Lazio, I think he scored against Lazio before as well, if I'm not
yep,
mistaken. So he likes to score against his dad's former team, that's for sure.
yeah, he scored when he was at Cagliari, and I think even when he was at Genoa. So he feels at home against us, and that's not good.
Yeah,
I was hoping
absolutely.
to sign him a couple of years ago when he left Fiorentina. I thought he could have been a good
Yeah,
backup for us, but it didn't happen. So
absolutely.
that could have been interesting, right? You mentioned his eye. I thought he started the season very well, but in the last couple
Yeah.
of weeks, I don't know if it's because he's tired, because he played all over the matches, or something else. But he struggled last Saturday. He struggled massively today, and you can expect against Inter, right? Because Inter has a quality team. But against Verona, I couldn't imagine that he could struggle that much.
I don't know. I think Verona does have a good team. I look player by player. I like their wing backs. I like Faraone. I like Lazovic. I like Caprari. I like
Yep.
Simeone. I like the team that they have. So obviously they have a lot of quality, and we've seen it in recent times. I can't remember what other game that he was taken off for Matosic, but we've seen Lazzari not start the match, Matosic come in, or vice versa, and then Matosic go on the left and Lazzari come in on right back. And there's obviously a reason for that. He hasn't been performing well as of late, and the same thing happened again today. So like you said, I think he started the season very well, and that's probably because he knows Saudi's tactics, he knows the league well, he's played in the back four. So that all kind of slotted in well with us. He didn't need too much time to prepare coming into the new team, but it's since hasn't really been too good, and that's probably something that we've seen Napoli fans complain about, because obviously before he'd signed for Lazio, I'd always hear fans say, you know what, oh, we're starting his side, but they also had issues with Rui as well. But maybe this is something that happens. Obviously, he's got no competition on the left except for Matosic that would make the swap over there. If one of them get injured, he knows he's going to be there every single game. It was kind of a similar situation, I feel, to when Strakosha was the number one, and he didn't really have a solid backup behind him. He had Proto in the net. He could have let in 5 goals for 3 consecutive games. He'd still be in the net because Inzaghi was just going to keep playing him at the time that was happening, right? So it's maybe a similar situation to that, and also a mix of fatigue, because like you said, he's been our starting left back, and he's played a lot. So
We have a question. We can play in Europe League and Serie A. Do you think our team is not good enough, or we don't have enough depth for playing both competition?
I think we've done it for recent years, and we've done it with teams of far lesser quality and far less depth. So I don't think that we can't play in both competitions. I just think the decisions that are being made for each game and the performances of the players in each game haven't been up to par, and are up to standard, I should say. So I think that's kind of the main reason for it. I think that we are a European team. I think we can obviously, we say we want to be challenging for a top 4 spot. Don't know if that's going to happen this year, obviously, with everything that's being new and the performance that we've had this far. But I think we can definitely finish within a top 7 spot and secure some sort of European football for the next season, and obviously into the future as well. Things will start to change, I feel, though. There's that meme going around right now with the hard to pill swallow, and I think that's one of the ones whereby if we lose Luis Alberto, which is probably going to happen this year, it's probably supposed to happen this past summer but didn't go through. If we lose Milinkovic-Savic, and once Immobile really starts to kind of regress, I think that we're going to have a lot of difficulties kind of replacing these guys. So that might be the time whereby we just focus on the league and not worry too much about European competition. But for the time being, I think we should be able to fare and manage in both competitions. We have the depth, I think, except for the back line, I should say.
Yeah, I agree with you, honestly. I don't think it's a problem of depth, it's mentality. Yeah, I don't know if the team, the players are struggling to adapt to Sarri, what he's asking, but I think, central midfield, central defender, we have a problem there, and we said it already this summer. But apart from that, I think there is enough depth. The quality of the players this year is probably better than last year, so we should be able to perform and do well in both competition. I think it's not the Europe League the problem. The problem is the mentality. When we are focused, and this happened only in big games like the Derby or like against Inter, Lazio play terrific football. But if the concentration goes down, like it happened against Bologna or Verona, and these teams press you very high and put you under pressure, then these things happens. I don't honestly don't see it depending on the Europe League. For sure, players have been tired because we played Thursday night and we played at 3 o'clock Sunday. So we had like 63 hours before between the two matches, which is not good enough. But I don't think it's Europe League the issue. We rotate a lot. I think there are 6 players that started against Olympique Marseille Thursday that weren't starting today. So no, I think it's just mentality. It's lack of focus in some matches. Do you agree with me?
Yeah, no, and I think it's also just we're gonna need some time. We knew the season was gonna be or take some time to kind of adapt to Saudi's tactics and to his play. So obviously we're sitting here and obviously looking at a 4-1 loss to Hellas Verona and a 3-0 loss to Bologna. We're going, okay, it's got to be a mentality issue. But end of the day, I think at the beginning of the season we had a podcast where we said, how long do we give until we kind of become frustrated at that point where it should be clicking now, right? And we said kind of half of a season, if not longer. So
Yeah.
right now it's just growing pains. So ultimately, every time we lose, we have the important thing is to take something out of it. So if this becomes a trend whereby every single time we face a tough opponent, we beat them, we play fantastic, face a lower tier side team, we lose. If this happens like once again for a third time, I think that's where the warning signs start to come into play. Obviously, we've seen it with Roma and we've seen it with today against Verona, but we got to give it some time ultimately too.
Do you think the Luis Alberto situation is getting worse? That between him and Sarri, things are not going the right direction, or it's just now it's a little bit complicated because Lazio struggling, allowing too many goals, and Sarri has to find a temporary solution for this.
I think it's a bit of both, but I honestly feel that Luis Alberto was supposed to leave this past summer. I think that was something that was lined up, and I think we were supposed to find a replacement. I don't think the deals went off the way they should be. I think he's probably been requesting that probably since the end of last season when Zaghi left as well. Obviously, you hear some rumors coming out with a Çalhanoğlu and Luis Alberto swap, and I don't think that's going to happen in any way, shape, or form, nor would I like that to happen at all. If that happens, that'd be very, very painful to watch.
Yep.
But I think right now the situation has obviously gotten a lot worse. Luis Alberto's always been one of those players who I think he needs to be like made feel like he's at home. Like Inzaghi, the way he trusted him and was able to kind of guide him to make him become the player he was today. And obviously Sadi's not that type of manager. And obviously you see that already kind of having an effect on him and on some of the other players on the team. So I think that relationship is deteriorating, and I think it's going to continue to deteriorate. So whether that be, I can't see them selling him in January unless something like really bad happens. Like if we're seeing him bench every single game and not touching the field at all, then obviously we got some worry signs. I think that will happen in January, but we're not usually known for doing things like that. So I think it'll be this summer where we get a 30, 40, $50 million offer, he's probably going to be gone. But I didn't really like the way he approached it. I think that by talking about it in the interview, that just made the situation 10 times worse. Obviously, he can speak the truth inside the locker room and to the players, and that's fine. But coming out and saying that's just going to put a detrimental effect on not only the player, but also his value, because now clubs know, okay, well, if he's not going to fit their formation, they're going to want to sell him. So why am I going to overpay on a player like this when they want him out? So that's going to kind of affect the situation in the summer too, I feel. So hopefully he's able to, when he plays, like today, comes in for a substitute performance, he's able to provide an assist, play well, or score a goal, whatever the case may be, to kind of increase his value or kind of keep it at the same length. But obviously, being snubbed for Spain constantly and now being snubbed for your club, it's definitely going to have an impact on him overall. So I think that's kind of where the situation is at.
Yeah, and I don't know. His performance today wasn't great. Obviously, he took some good corner kicks. We had a chance with Patrick there, and another one later with Milinkovic Savic. But I didn't see the reaction I was expecting. Right, we are down 3-1. We are struggling. You came in. You have been the leader of this team last year and the past years. I want to see you more focused, more willing to get the ball and to change things, which didn't happen. I don't know if he's done with it, because I thought against Inter he came in and provide a boost to this team. Today I didn't have the same impression. So I don't know if something
No,
broken,
yeah,
but
it's yeah, no, for sure. And like you said, though, it was kind of hard to pull some positives out of this game. And I even heard the commentator say, you know what, it seems like Lazio they've given up, and that was around the 75th minute, if I'm not mistaken. So it kind of seemed like, you know what, it didn't matter at this point. They knew they were going to be walking away with defeat. They weren't coming back from this, and obviously when that happens, one player hopefully would be able to do something, but it's very difficult, especially in a game of that sort, to kind of make that big of a difference. But obviously, like you said, coming out and making a strong impression is at least something that he should be doing, or anyone off the bench should be doing. So obviously today, I didn't think Moro provided too much either off the bench. I don't think any of the substitutes really did too much. I think Lazzari was actually one of the bright ones who I saw running down on the right flank at certain times. But apart from that, like, these players know their roles. They've been doing this for quite some time now. They got to get in there and make a difference, especially players like Luis Alberto, like you said.
what do you think about Lazzari? Because he was starting at the beginning of the season. I thought he was always very dangerous when he attacked. He made a couple of mistakes when defending, but
Yeah.
I don't think that both Marusic or Isai have stepped up and said, okay, he deserves to be on the bench because these players are playing better. And every time he comes in, you can see the change of pace on this team. Even today, where Lazio was playing horrible, he was probably one of the bright spots. Yes, he missed a huge chance, but at least he was trying. You could see it, right?
Yeah, no, and like you said, I think it comes down to, like, he's obviously the fastest player on the team apart from Felipe Anderson, I'd say. And I think today the only reason why Marusic started ahead of him was solely due to the fact that we were without our two starting center backs, and he wanted to play a little bit more defensively. So I think that's why he threw Marusic in there, because obviously he is a better defender than Lazzari in overall, whether it just be his aggression, his size, his ability to kind of stay back more than go forward, because I didn't really see that too much today. So I think Sadi said, you know, like, we're without our two starting defenders. Let's play a little bit more defensively. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think Hasai started against Marseille. So I think that's probably why Hasai started on the left and why Lazzari was starting on the bench for today. But I think it's a mix of both. I think it depends on the opponent. Obviously, as of late, I think it's been Marusic starting on the right, but we're usually used to seeing them at least play in the same game, right? So whether it be him coming off the bench like he did today, that can sometimes even be a benefit to us, right? We saw how fast he was and able to kind of slide past defenders in the final third of a game. So that can sometimes prove to our benefit. But
Yep.
I think the main reason for Marusic starting today was just because obviously we were without Acerbi and Luis Felipe, so we needed a little bit more defensive solidity, not attack, like today. So obviously we saw Hellas Verona were pressing all over the place, right? They gave us difficulties.
Yep. You mentioned Ramoro came in, and I think this is important to see him increasing his play time, coming in match important, like, important matches like against Inter, but even against Verona when we're down, etc. I didn't like that much Pedro today, but how much did Lazio miss Zaccagni today? He's injured again. Rumors are he could be out 1 month. I thought today he could have started because Pedro, I think he's a little bit struggling now, maybe a little bit tired after the incredible
Yeah.
beginning of the season.
Yes, and like you just said there, I think the main reason is fatigue. I think obviously when he came into this team late, obviously coming from Roma, I think he was our best performer at the beginning of the season. But since then, it's kind of gone downhill for him, and I think it's because we're overplaying him. It's as simple as that, and that's partially Zaccagni's fault to an extent for becoming injured so often, right? Obviously, signing a player of his quality, we saw what he was able to do with Hellas Verona. Being injured for as long as he has so far has obviously not been positive. Like, we were supposed to sign Kostic, then obviously that didn't work out. We signed Zaccagni instead. We're hoping for the best, and now, like you said, he could have started today, or he could have came off the bench and gave Lazio a different option. But now we're forced to use our youngsters. So like Raul Moro or Luca Romero, like, those are our go-to substitutions right now. So even Felipe Anderson, we're saying, you know what, he didn't play too well today, but should he have started today, or would he have been starting if Zaccagni was fit, or Pedro have started? Those are the kind of the options that we're taking a look at, but because of injuries, this is the situation that we're forced to kind of deal with, and that's how it has to be, right? So ultimately, it's up to fatigue, I think, for Pedro.
Yeah, because if I'm not wrong, I think Felipe Anderson started every single match this season. And in the last two, I'm thinking about Olympique Marseille and today against Verona, you could see that it wasn't the same Felipe Anderson. Um,
No.
I thought he was tired, probably more mentally than physically. And he tend to make mistakes when he's mentally not 100% focused. And this is a problem because, again, we don't have any a lot of options there because Zaccagni is out. Uh, and, this is a problem because we are only at end of October and we already have a couple of Pedro and Felipe Anderson already. You can see them tired. Um, Moro is proving to be maybe at that level, maybe not for a Champions League team yet, but he's growing, I think. Do you think that maybe this winter we should sign someone else?
I think it depends on the situation. Like obviously, if Zaccagni is not able to stay match fit, especially after coming back off of this injury, I think that should definitely be considered. But obviously, if we're signing anyone in January as a center back, I think that is the main priority, unless we're selling a Luis Alberto, which would seem very unlikely. But if we're selling one of our bigger players, that's when we go, okay, we need to sign someone else, and whether it be an attacker and a defender or a midfielder. But I'm looking at the comments here. Should have played Vavro over Radu. I still forgot about that guy. I forgot that guy existed. I forgot that he was in the team. So that's kind of the situation we're in right now, right? Like we have Vavro and Radu. We didn't see Radu play a single minute, and Vavro has been on the bench as well, right? So I think the main thing, if we sign anyone in winter, should be a center back. But obviously, depending on Zaccagni's ability to stay match fit, because obviously, if we look, if Pedro gets injured or Felipe Anderson gets injured, what's our trident or our front three going to look like? I think that's when Saudi's going to switch to a 4-3-1-2 and play both Murici and Immobile together. And obviously, how is that going to fare? I don't know.
For the second match in a row, Murici warmed up but didn't come in. Against Olympique Marseille, I think Sarri opted to put in Leiva and Raul Moro as last two subs. Pretty much the same today. Do you think there's something on? Do you think Murici would have helped today, especially looking that we were attacking on the wingers and putting the ball in the box, and maybe we could use the skills of Murici there and be more dangerous?
Possibly, and like that's where I look at today. Maybe switching to a 4-3 or 4-3-1-2 would have been in our interest near the end of the game. Obviously, like we said, the game became out of reach past the 75th minute, so it became one of those things whereby do I throw someone on? Do I throw a youngster on? Like I'd prefer to see Raul Moro coming on if that's that last substitution than Murici. And in my opinion, just to give him that playing time because obviously he needs that to grow. Murici, we've seen what he's been able to do, and unfortunately just hasn't been up to standards. But maybe he could have done something. Maybe he could have provided a headed goal, in our dreams. But I don't know. We didn't really see too many crosses. I think, in my opinion, in the air at least, and that's obviously because Immobile is up there. But if Murici was in, maybe that would have changed. Would he have scored? It's hard to say, right? So he could have made an impact, but if we're talking about putting him in or a youngster, I'd probably say put Moro in.
As you mentioned Vavro, and we have question about Vavro, do you think that seeing the performance of a central defender, do you think Sarri should give him a chance? Maybe not against Fiorentina, that it's quite complicated match, but in the coming matches, he's not in the Europe League list. So unfortunately, he cannot play there. But in Serie A, I think we are playing Cagliari. No, we already played Cagliari, but after Fiorentina, maybe give him a chance, even though I think it's Atalanta-Lazio. So two very difficult matches coming on. But we struggled there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can't see it happening. And it's for the same reason for Stefan Radu, I think. I don't think we'll be seeing too much of him either unless injuries occur. I think Sarri knows what he wants and he sees these players in training every day. And it was a similar situation to what we were saying last year with the youngsters with Inzaghi. Obviously, Raul Moro is a little bit different, but these guys see each other every single day. So whether it be a lack of quality, he went on loan, didn't do much to impress. He came back. He was supposed to kind of fit into the team, was excluded from Europa League.
Yep.
I think he's had his fair share of chances, and I think it's one of those things like a Dermisi situation whereby it's not going to happen. He was there to be there, but unless it's a very, very rare situation whereby, let's say, both of our central defenders are suspended and someone else is injured, then he'll play. Because today, for example, like he would have had to play as a right back, so maybe replace Patrick. But Patrick played well against Inter, so Patrick should have started the game. Radu is the only kind of iffy, I guess you can say, on the starting 11 in the back line. And they're saying maybe start Leiva there instead. So we didn't even hear Vavro's name mentioned at all. We were going to play Leiva there instead of Vavro if Radu wasn't starting. So I think that says a lot about where he is in the pecking order, and if he's ever going to see a minute, I can't see it happening.
Yeah, I don't know. As we said hundreds of times this summer, we needed to sign a central defender, and this didn't happen. So I think there's where the problem is. But after this performance, Steve, and thank you for joining me. And guys, remember, thelaziali.com, the best website for Lazio fans. So check it out as soon as this video ends, and constantly updated every day of the week. So check it out. What do you think? Because at the beginning of the season, we said Lazio can fight for the Champions League spot. Maybe Lazio can reach the Europe League. After seeing this up and down, what do you think? I know it's early. We can improve. But if you should say today, will Lazio be at the end of the season? What's your take?
I think if we continue on this trend, I think we're too inconsistent to finish in a top four spot. So I'd see us maybe battling for a fifth, sixth spot at best. But like we said right now, fatigue is taking its toll. There's going to be matches played in short spans of time, like over the next, I think, 3 or 4 weeks, whatever the case may be. I think our next 6 or 7 games are like kind of like the situation where it's 3-4 days breaks in between everything. We're too inconsistent, I think, right now to be able to finish in a Champions League spot. So I think for that reason, I'm going to say probably challenging for Europa League, fifth, sixth, maybe even conference in seventh, if I'm not mistaken. The conference league is seventh, so kind of in that range of places.
Yeah, I have to admit that. Unfortunately, if you want to reach the Champions League, you have to win constantly every single week. You have to, you know, find a winning streak of 4 or 5 matches in a row. And I cannot see it happening with this team at the moment. And it's a little bit unlucky because you see the other teams, right? I think at the moment there is Inter, Milan, and Napoli that are probably above the others. And then you see Roma, even Atalanta, Fiorentina, that are struggling a lot. They're not much better than Lazio. So you can see that if you start playing better, be, you know, start winning more matches, you can be there, but it's not happening. It's simply not happening. So yeah, I hope fifth place. I don't want to go in Conference League, even though seeing Roma, I think, Lazio could easily win this league, this competition, but it would be harder to then play in the Serie A because you're playing Norway, you're playing far away. So this would be even harder for the team next season, right?
Absolutely. No, like you said, I think Napoli, Inter, and Milan are kind of in a world of their own right now, and I think everyone else is going to be chasing them for most of the season. They're kind of experiencing similar situations. Juventus, Fiorentina, Atalanta, Roma. Like Fiorentina, I don't know how long they're going to be able to kind of thrive underneath Italiano. I think that's kind of a recency effect with his signing, but I think a lot of the other top clubs like Atalanta, we've seen Roma under Mourinho. It's going to be kind of that tough battle between these clubs for those spots. So to be determined what happens, but I think if we continue on this trend of inconsistency, it's going to be very difficult to kind of crunch out those points and kind of secure a place in the top four.
Thank you, Steve, for joining me. Remember, guys, the website of Steve, it's simply unbelievable. For Lazio fan who doesn't speak Italian, he's doing an amazing job for all of you Laziali outside Italy who don't read Italian. So thank you again, Steve, for your work and for joining me today. And guys, if you want to follow Lazio World, you have plenty of options. We're on Twitter, we're on Twitch, YouTube, we're on podcasts. So wherever you follow podcasts, you can find us there. We are on Twitch and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. Thank you again, Steve. Thank you again, Laziali all over the world. Bye.